welcome to Creative Conversations with me, Paula McGurdy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I can hardly believe this is season 2, episode 3, no less. If you haven't already listened to the conversations in season 1, I urge you to go and have a listen because the artists that I've spoken to are just incredible. Artists and creatives, so go have a listen. Today I'm speaking to Rene Mullin, who is a Belfast-based printmaker, and Rene's current works is predominantly on Irish linen, of which she is a big fan, and her work is so colourful and playful, and I think you'll really love it. And we speak a lot about how she got into the arts coming from a business background, which I'm sure will be interesting to many of you who haven't trained necessarily in the arts but are coming from different backgrounds. And her wealth of knowledge over that is fantastic. So I hope you'll really enjoy this. If you do like these series, please go and share and follow and like and subscribe, all of the things, because obviously the more reach that these have, the more it gives, and the artists who are giving their time to speak to me more of a coverage, I guess, you know, and that's what these are all about. So please go and share and like and subscribe. And I love engagement, so if you do want to chat a bit more about any of the conversations, I'm always open to that. I do hope you enjoy today, and as I said, there's other ones in season 1 that you can always go and have a listen to as well. Enjoy. Hi Renee, how are you?
Hi Paula, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you in virtual life, you know.
It's our lives now, isn't it?
Isn't it just, yeah.
Haven't met a new person since March.
I know. It's all kind of bizarre, isn't it?
Totally.
Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining me today. And I look forward to getting to know a bit more about your process.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be asked. It's lovely. I really enjoy what you're doing, and I think it's really nice just to talk to people and, you know, hear what's happening. So yeah, no, it's good. Hopefully people are interested. I don't know.
Oh, they definitely will. I think it's always good to have a kind of a broad range of what people do and about different creatives so it's not just painters. We've had various different people on, so I think it's great to have a broad range. So yeah. So I guess I always start, Renee, with the whys and the hows of how people started, how they got into what they're doing. So would you like to give us a bit of background about how you got into creativity and where that started for you?
Yeah, I think I was always creative. I think I demanded a redecoration of my bedroom when I was very young. You know, aesthetically, I was always very kind of aware and tuned into how things look and feel and how I feel in, you know, environments, and being able to pick up a paintbrush, going to school on painting days was the most exciting day for me at primary school. And but then in my kind of secondary level education, there was no art department in the school I ended up in. There was this thing called CDT, Craft Design Technology. And there we made things like ashtrays for our parents, you know. So mine didn't at that stage, but, you know, most people's did. So yeah, I liked making things, and so I spent time at school doing those things, and then at home I wanted to do more of that. And I remember making my mom kind of write lists for things that, you know, don't just buy me Christmas presents, buy me the things I want, like candle making kits, and, you know, I was really into making things. But there's no formal art education, and to be honest, there was no art knowledge in our home. There was no one in the house that was, you know, interested in art or knew anything about it. I didn't actually even know that art schools existed as a child growing up. I didn't know it was a thing. I had zero exposure. And then I went to Edinburgh to do a business-related management degree, and I was already going out with my now husband, then boyfriend, and he was at Edinburgh College of Art and doing architecture, landscape architecture, and I went there a lot with him. And I remember standing in the atrium of Edinburgh College of Art and just thinking, oh my God, why did no one tell me this place existed, 10 years ago? Or how did I not know about this stuff? I remember just standing there looking at people and thinking, you are me, I want to be you. I don't want to carry a briefcase. And so I started going there and doing courses and classes, and this is all in the mid-90s, and hanging out with him and his friends and going to the clubs they were going to, and just having a art school experience, but going to the business school or Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh for the degree. And I suppose now, looking back, at the time I didn't really enjoy my degree and just wanted to be doing creative things. And I was doing screen printing and pottery classes in the evening and ceramics and things at the weekends, and going to summer workshops and exposing myself and teaching myself about exposing myself to art. About creativity, just through the people that I was mixing with. But I didn't really particularly enjoy going to my own course, but I realized, look, you're in it now, you have to finish this. And, but now when I look back on all of that, I really can see that the business side of things was, it was already in me to understand that I needed to manage money well. I needed to understand economics and how, it works within a kind of governed system, and how to manage a lifestyle that has fluctuating income. So it has been very, very beneficial to have that in my back pocket. But I absolutely, in no way at all enjoy politics or business and economics and finance the way I enjoy a creative life. But I understand. So, I'm kind of, in a happy enough medium there.
Sounds like you have a bit of the best of both worlds, because I think people come out of our college without any of that, and if you are doing that course, but then doing other courses, creative courses along the way, it's so valuable, isn't it, for artists to have that background?
Yeah. So now I look at other artists and makers, and I've done quite a few talks over the last few years while I've been living here, through people like Craft, NI, and Create, Innovate, Arma, and different organizations like that who try to help their creative communities. So I've done some talks on things like, how to price your work, how to, how to become a seller, how to wholesale your work, how to sell to retailers. All of those kind of what I now see are basics and that people should be making in an art school, but they're not. How to do tax return. I mean, if you ask an artist in year one of being an artist graduating, how do they know anything about tax return? They have not got a clue.
Nothing.
So, that's a fundamental. If you're going to be an independent person in any career, if you want to be freelance or, you're not going to be an employee, you need to know this stuff. So the art schools possibly, are moving that way, that they're including that kind of thing in their offering. I think there maybe are modules now. I'm not teaching on any of them, but I'd be more than happy to. But I think they don't want also to hinder any creativity with the reality of, the numbers. And that's that kind of innocence of creating is the thing that I missed. And I didn't know that there were no rules. And I only realized within the last kind of 8 or 9 years that there are no rules. There are no rules about what I do, how I make things, what I make, who I make them for, how I make them, why I do it. There are no rules. So I didn't go to art school, and I think that's the thing that you learn at art school is that there are no rules. There are principles, there's disciplines and the techniques, but how you interpret that and what you come up with is entirely up to you, and that's what makes you, an artist. And I was unaware of that, and I think that's because my mind was all about rules, and business is all about rules, and and sticking to them and doing things correctly, and setting up systems, being organized, and all of those things. So I suppose maybe some people think I have the best of both worlds. I feel like I felt for a long time like I'd wasted some time, of time, about 10 years of kind of grappling around trying to work out what was I interested in, what did I want to do, how did I want to apply myself, choosing between ceramics and print as well. Kind of do you want to go down the print route, or would you prefer to, ceramics and print were the primary interests for me. I also enjoy silversmithing a bit, but not make a career of it. Well, when I say a career of it, I'm very happy to do not the same thing all the time, and I think that should be encouraged more as well. That it's okay to go between disciplines, and it's okay to join things together in ways that aren't standard. They're not normally done, or it's not regular, and you can go from area to another quite happily. So I'm all for the interdisciplinary kind of aspect of creativity as well, and the way that I work within the landscape architecture aspect of our business here. I get to do that as well. I get to look at structure and form and sculpture and environment, and work creatively, as well as working on actual printmaking and things.
Wow. So there's so much there, I guess, isn't there, really? I think, what you said about no rules, and for artists, I think that is so key, isn't it? And for art college, it's completely like that. And I guess you can tell from, as you said, like you would go to the art college with your like now husband, but and be in that space and around those people, and think that they're the kind of people that I want to hang out with, because it's a certain scene, I guess, isn't it? But I think in our college, there's great freedom in being in art college as well, like just being told to go and make, and being given a certain set of format in some kind of way, but it's very loose, and it's maybe a small brief, but you're just given a space and told go and do it, and there is great freedom in that, really.
Yeah. I think Edinburgh, as a place, it is quite unique. It is a massive financial centre. London, I think it's the biggest financial centre in the UK. So it is full of briefcases and pinstripe suits, and there's a lot of big fund houses there, and fund managers and that kind of thing. But they all kind of live and breathe culture and the arts, work, and they work hard, and then they go out in the evening to the theatre, they go to the galleries, they go to the independent shops, they go to independent retailers, the artisan food places. So Edinburgh had this kind of, in my mind at that stage, and again, this is 90s, early 2000s, mid 90s, right through then, it had that kind of, utopian kind of scenario where the artists were well looked after, because they're coming to see their shows, people were buying their work, people were, doing what I see as the kind of more mundane aspect job during the day, and then having all the fun after that, and happy to invest their huge amounts of money in that. And then it had this art school amongst all of that, which was just, you walk down the street in the morning to go to the art school, or, on a Saturday even, and see people who are, harangued on their way to the office. And then you get in there, and it's just this place full of colour and mess. It was a mess. There was paint everywhere, tape on the walls. The art school here, and art schools are moving away from that. The studios aren't like that anymore. I mean, I have this space here where we do all our work, office, but I also have a studio at the back of my house here, which is, it's where the paint gets dropped on the floor, and, there's pin boards with things stuck on them, and I don't have any Wi-Fi in there, so I can't have, this conversation in there. But I don't have Wi-Fi in there because I want to be working there.
Yeah.
So I think Edinburgh was a kind of a perfect place for me to go and to have that kind of enlightenment, let's call it.
Yeah.
And how, there can be a community of nurturing appreciators of what the artists are doing. Both creative industries and the cultural scene was very much the lifeblood of Edinburgh, really. Without all of that, and I think they're experiencing that at the minute with galleries and theatres being closed with the pandemic. Without all of that, it's a very different place. Like, this is the first time ever in its history that the Edinburgh Festival hasn't happened. So it's, it's being in the right location, and my is called Placed, very much because I felt displaced or misplaced for a long time, physically and, kind of in terms of what I was doing. And just to be in the right environment, I think, and be somewhere where you can create, and where that what you're creating and how you're working is supported by community, is really, really important to me.
That said, then, Renee, can you, because some people might be watching this and not know much about your work, can you describe your work to people?
Yeah, it's kind of it has evolved. So initially I was printing things that I, designs that I might scribble, or draw, or kind of very graphic black line edge drawing, and just, all of that, but also the whole placed environment, the whole idea of place and identity and all of those things was coming through my work. And when we lived in Edinburgh and I was first starting to kind of make work, if you like, I was obsessed with Ireland and how much I was missing by not being there, and how much I have missed by having this warped education system here in the north where I grew up, not knowing the language. And so I decided to incorporate some Irish language into my work so that I could try and learn it. And I didn't put any pressure on myself to learn it to be fluent. I just wanted to be familiar with words that I could teach my kids, like please and thank you, little hog, or all these kind of things. And so I just started I started really basic interpretations of the language in a graphic form within printmaking and screen. And I made lots of prints, and people got in touch with me. So I sold them on Etsy at the beginning, and the Irish Design Shop found me through Etsy, Laura and Claire, and they contacted me around about then, like 2009, 2010. They were early on in having a store. It was, and they were in at that stage. And they bought a few of my prints and sold them in their shop. And then they asked me to be one of 6 designers for the Year of Craft, which I think was in 2011. They asked me to be one of 6 designers that they had chosen to design a mug. And then they produced the mugs and sold the mugs. And that was the first time that I had kind of had anyone commission me or invite me to produce something specifically for them with a brief. And that I wasn't kind of free to, that I was free to design whatever I want, but it was for a purpose. So I'd never really had that experience before. And that was a real eye-opener to me that, okay, people like my work. This is okay. And I think you need that at some stage when you're a creative or an artist. At some point, someone needs to say, this is good, or, that's clever, or that's nice, or I really like that. And I would like to see more of that in whatever way you do that. And maybe that's just
validation, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Totally. So yeah, and then I got over the years I've just become more open to designing or drawing or printing whatever I feel like, rather than kind of having to think about the language and all of those things. So it's evolving. That I do still incorporate Irish language into my work, and I will always, but not every piece. Whereas before, it was becoming a little bit like a requirement. Oh, she's the girl that does the, and then selling in lots of shops and gallery shops, and then I produced a book, but Blackstaff Press. I did a poster, an Irish alphabet. There hadn't been one done since the 1970s.
Wow.
It's back there. And yeah, so I illustrated an Irish alphabet, which is 18 letters, and it then became a book. Blackstaff Press, I showed them the alphabet on the poster, and they said, yeah, we'd love to make it into a book. And they got funding from the Arts Council here in the North, and they commissioned me, and they paid me in advance, and it's exciting. And I made the poster into a book, and they printed 4,000 copies, and I think nearly all 4,000 copies have sold. And yeah, and it still sells. Jam Art Factory in Dublin have it, I know for sure. And then the other shops I've gone into, Eason's and Gutter Bookshop, and when I'm in Dublin, and other shops. There's a shop in Sligo that has it. A friend of mine took a photo of it, and people are still selling it. So yeah, it's really, that was another big moment, I suppose. But yeah, so I suppose I don't know how to describe my work, because it's not one thing or another. We're a poster, there's a book, there's wrapping paper, there's textiles, there's printed that then becomes things that, cushions and tea towels, and there's lots of but then there's pieces that go on the wall that describe as fine art printmaking if you wanted to. I wouldn't ever really want to be boxed into what I do. So and I'm really happy to be invited to work on commissions, and I've been commissioned to do a couple of installations, permanent installations over the years. There was Rear Red in Tala, have a cafe, and they asked me to design kind of panels for their cafe to split up the seating. So textile panels of one of my existing designs, and they then took that design and ran with it through the whole cafe, did their t-shirts and everything, had it on it. And it's not there now. It was there for 6 years, and now
okay, I was going to say, I'm trying to remember, because I was there gosh, maybe before lockdown, I guess. I was there, but I was like
for about 2 years, I think.
Okay, yeah. Wow, how incredible.
Yeah, and then there's an office over in Belfast, like a big shared office space called If. We're in West Belfast, and on the Springfield Road, and they asked me to do an installation for their reception area. So at that time I was working on an exhibition for a gallery here, which was called Linen Song, and I took lots of songs that millies and people that worked in the linen mills sang while they were at work. So there's a whole book of songs that people working in the linen industry sang. A lot of them are Irish traditional songs now. They're recognised as that, but they are directly related to the linen industry. Kind of illustrated on perspex. I printed directly onto perspex panels and made an installation of a song about the Springfield Road that this shared office space is on for their reception area. And they had commissioned me to do something, and I really enjoyed that project, and I enjoyed printing on perspex. Not a sustainable at all product to
Mm.
and a world away from linen.
Mm.
A really nice contemporary interpretation of the song and, you know, the heritage of the site.
Mm.
And yeah, so things like that are more exciting to me now than ever I had imagined I would be doing. You know, when
Mm.
contact me and ask me to work on something, that's really, really lovely. And to be able to realize a project for someone and see them at a briefing, you know, when you go and show them your first concept designs or whatever, and they're excited by it, it's just really, so I particularly enjoy doing that kind of thing. But my favorite thing to do is be in the studio and doing, you know, anything that involves ink.
Anything, yes, anything creative. So do you have a process then, Rene, of where you start? Do you get into the studio every day, or how does that work for you?
No, definitely not every day. And I have advocated seasonal working before, and I don't want to kind of give the impression that I do this. I don't, but I do think that it's a kind of a loose structure to the year. In a year, not this year, obviously. Early part of the year is for me ideas and designs and concepts, and then that kind of spring coming into summer period is a really good time to actually be making things. And then kind of late August to October is just trying to sell them. And then Christmas is more about looking back and, you know, over the year and seeing what worked and what didn't work and starting to think about next year. And being out there selling things, you know, turning up at the fairs and turning up at events and, you know, joining in with collaborative events and things that are trying to, you know, get more exposure for your work. So that has kind of been a loose, very loose, because there's curveballs that come in all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, no more big a curveball this year than the pandemic. So, and then one of my parents got very sick this year and passed away, and things that will come up, and you can't have a structure that is so rigid that, you know, you decide then, oh, I missed my making period because of that. We'll just get making now kind of thing. So yeah, so there's no, and then my day to day, I have 3 kids, so, you know, no 2 days are the same as you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we get up in the morning and we do the whole coffee and breakfast and lunch making and all that kind of stuff, and then we I'm walking dogs and looking after kittens and all that kind of thing, and then we come in here usually first into this. And I mean, before I cleaned and cleared it out and painted it, which is very recent, I came in and then immediately wanted to turn around and walk back out again, because it was just overwhelming, the amount of paperwork that we've accrued over the years. So I was getting to the stage with this business that, you know, it was I wasn't enjoying going to work. Our main bread and butter, you know, this is, well, for me, this is the main bread and butter. This is Pete's kind of career, if you like. So I had to make the space work better for us, but we're 20 years in business this year as well. And I suppose with the passing away of a parent and just the pandemic and all of that kind of stuff, we've decided that we have to start celebrating things like that. Like, Pete and I are not good at celebrating stuff, you know. We are not champagne poppers at every, you know, things have happened that are, when you look back, like the book, for example, you know, fantastic. And, you know, other people might be opening champagne and stuff. I just went and picked up the book from the publisher, brought a few copies home. I think we might have gone to the pub and had a Guinness or something that day. There's no big woohoo, you know.
There's no fanfare, yeah.
I did do a book launch, you know, but that was kind of a selling event, if you like. You know, it wasn't a celebration. So we've decided this year that, you know, things should be celebrated. So this year we're 20 years in business with that business. But Mullin Design Associates is what we were called. We're just Mullin Landscape Architecture from now going forward. So we're doing a new branding. I'm doing all of this, and a new website. And we've commissioned a photographer to go and take pictures of our sites and all that kind of stuff. So, and that work is much more enjoyable now to be doing in a clean, tidy, uncluttered space. And it's still very much design orientated. So I'm totally into it and really enjoying it, actually. Ready in a couple of weeks. So I've been in here doing, you know, the kind of clear out, but also doing that kind of thing a lot more than normal. Normally in this space, you know, 3 or 4 mornings or afternoons in a week. And then I use my studio space probably 3 or 4 days a week. I'm also a member of and a board member of the Belfast Print Workshop. So that's where I expose all my screens and clean all my screens and do all the kind of big, mucky, messy things, because my space here is smaller, and also because I print on linen, I like to work in a relatively well-managed, clean space, and I also like to not have to put everything away when I'm in the middle of something. And when you're in a shared, like the Belfast Print Workshop, if I was down there doing the printmaking, I would have to tidy everything up, put it all away.
Yeah.
I might not be finished the piece, and there's nowhere to put a piece of linen, you know, in a shared print studio to make sure it's going to be the same condition as it was the last time you saw it. So that's kind of what prompted me to make a studio here. So I go down there to do the big stuff, and I would maybe go in once every month, once every 6 weeks to clean screens and expose screens and that kind of thing. And then I get into my studio here, you know, 3 times a week or whatever, but it doesn't always happen. I'm working on something for a customer or for a, you know, a shop or for an order or whatever. I could be in there for 2 weeks solid. And it's great. It's right next to my kitchen, so I can go in and make the dinner and, you know, feed the kids, do the homework, back in. You know, it's good and it works really well. It's far too small. It's not big enough. You know, I need a bigger space, but I'm happy enough with it where it is and how it is and how this.
Yeah, I guess it's convenience over size, isn't it? And I think when you've got a lot of things going on at home and family and all that kind of stuff, a home studio can make all the difference in terms of it working. I can't imagine having to go to the studio every day and then be doing the school pickups and all that kind of stuff. I just think it eats into so much time then that you have, you know. So I think there's a lot to be said for it, really, you know.
Yeah, I think people, you know, people with kids understand it. You know, they get it, that you have this window of opportunity every day, and you know, if you want to go for a walk with your friend, you do that at the, you know, it's opportunity cost the whole time. You know, you go for a walk with your friend at the opportunity, you know, at the cost of making a new piece of work, or you know, or you do counts at the cost of making a new piece of work or whatever. But you have all within this very kind of structured school pickup or, you know, child situation. But I think after a few years, you just surrender to that. So with it, you do fight it a little bit at the start and feel hard done that you don't get enough time to do your thing and stuff. But I think you kind of surrender to it, and sure, nearly out. One of mine's 17, so.
Oh wow! Okay, getting into the leaving a secondary school soon, I guess, you know.
Yeah, another
all change.
Yeah, well, will they be leaving at all? I don't know. A lot of the kids this year, and they might as well have stayed at home, you know. So I don't know how things are going to evolve over the next few years. I don't know, but I definitely won't be doing all their washing.
No, that's for sure. That's a given, isn't it? So Rene, tell me about, because you're working a lot on linen at the moment, and that's Irish linen that you use. And are they wall hangings that you do, or what format do they look like? Are they cushions? What led you into the linen side of things, I guess?
Well, I've been working on linen now for since about 2010. First started moving away from paper and delving a wee bit further into my family history as well. I didn't really know an awful lot about. When we lived away in Edinburgh, I didn't really appreciate that my grandfather, my mum's dad, they're from Fort Hill in South Armagh. He grew linen and he worked with her. He grew flax and harvested it and gave it to sold it to a local linen mill. They and he worked for other people who all did this, and they all worked together as a community, actually, the flax growers and harvesters and that kind of thing. So they went to each other's place and did that. So I didn't actually know anything about that. I thought he was a taxi driver or a blacksmith or something. I didn't really know what he did. It was just granda. And then I also discovered that my dad's mum was a millie in a North Belfast linen mill. And the millies were the women that worked there and did whatever, they could have been doffers or whatever they did. I don't know what her role was in there. But anyway, this kind of captured my attention a little bit in very recent years. But prior to that, linen just kind of, I was amazed when I came back to Ireland that there was no contemporary use of linen in anything. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see linen. I could see linen tablecloths and tea towels and napkins and stuff, but they were so boring, and there were, there was nothing contemporary about what was going on.
Yeah.
I applied to them in any way. They were just the same as they'd always been. They were being produced in the same way that they had always been produced. Beautiful, pristine and perfect and wonderfully made, but not appealing to a younger market or a more designer market. I shouldn't have said younger. And so I decided to start using it and seeing if I could do things that made me want to use linen myself. My, design aware life. So I made myself some stuff, and I made things that people wanted to buy and asked me, and so I sold them to them. Napkins and beautifully made, Irish linen napkins from there's a few different places in the north. Emblem Weavers in the south is fabulous. Flax mills up in Dungiven make the most amazing linen, and that's what they're printing those graphic designs onto. And then Thomas Ferguson in Banbridge, who are also part of the John England group. I'm not sure how that all knits together, but they're the three kind of places that I bought linen from to work on. And McNutt's in Donegal as well. I've been to them and I've seen them making the linen and weaving and using their looms, whether they're mechanical or hand loomed. And I appreciate the whole process, and I just love the fact that it is our heritage product, and that it is own, and it goes from seed to table here in Ireland. So that is why I use Irish linen. Now, not all flax is grown here that then becomes Irish linen. A lot of it is. Mullin linen here in the north are the first people to kind of work linen right through from they started seeding it and growing it a couple of years ago, and they're now harvesting and doing all the processes, scutching and beetling and all of those things, and taking it right through to product. So that's very exciting, and they're really exciting people to watch. So I at the minute the work that I'm doing was exploratory, and I was just trying things out and trying color on linen, and how ink reacts to textile is very different to paper. So when you print on paper, the ink sits beautifully velvet, it's like velvet on the page. But when you print onto linen, the ink becomes, very much part of the textile. So it's completely different in a result. So how that kind of feels and looks and is as a piece of work, either on a wall or as what becomes a product, if you like, has been part of this exploration I've been doing over the last few months. So I'm really enjoying that. I haven't actually committed to how those pieces will be available, but I'm almost there with it.
Brilliant. I love the geometrics of it, and I know what you mean by when you print on paper, it sits beautifully on it, and but I guess with linen, I'm expecting for the reverse. Well, I haven't printed on linen, but I'm thinking from painting on canvas. If you don't gesso it, the paint comes through on the reverse. So I'm imagining it will be the same on the linen, or does it go through on the other side?
It doesn't always. It depends.
Okay.
So the darker coloured linen, the natural unbleached one that
I love it. Yeah.
Some photos of, that's the Flax Mills linen. It doesn't come through it at all, really.
Okay.
It's a very tight weave, and it's also been through a process. It hasn't been beetled, because when linen is beetled, it has a kind of a sheen to it. That particular batch doesn't have any sheen to it. So I'm not sure what that process is, and I'll need to look more into that, because it sits really nicely on that. Paul, not Thomas Powell, he's a potter, but he also lives near Banbridge. The Thomas Ferguson linen, it does let the ink through. So the reverse is actually quite nice, because it's just a muted version of the design on the front. But no, there won't be wall hangings, I can tell you that. There will be options within what they are. But yeah, I think if I wasn't learning and I wasn't discovering new things about how the ink works, and I wouldn't feel nearly as excited about what I'm doing at the minute. So I'm enjoying that process, and where that might go.
Do you use sketchbooks and stuff like that then, Renee? Do you work in sketchbooks a lot? Do a lot of testings and things?
I don't test in sketchbooks, and I don't use colour particularly in sketchbooks. A lot of the work I did early years is hand drawn with a black high pigment pen, and I did draw into sketchbooks for a long time, and then realized that I was then having to scan the image so that I could put it onto the transparencies so that I could expose it onto a screen. So then I just started drawing directly onto transparencies. So I have like poster tubes full of rolled up transparencies that I've used.
Okay.
And some of the stuff is quite big scale. Like if you're printing on a tea towel or a piece of textile, you need something that's quite big. So the option there is to use paper and then to oil the paper to make it transparent. So that's what I do, and I've kept all of those. They're all. So that's the kind of beginning process of any design that's going to be exposed onto a screen. So there's two different kind of ways that I work. One is to work directly with the screen and no image pre-drawn, so you can mask your screen for, in the current work that I'm doing. I could expose those shapes and expose shapes onto a screen, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep working the way I am, which is just masking off or using a paper cut stencil to make the shapes. And that's really freeing. And, as the paper stencil erodes and kind of breaks down, I have to take it off the screen and put on a new one. And that just makes the work just continually be reimagined. The other way is to draw and then expose something onto a screen, and then that's it. That screen can be used for 2 years, you know. So and that's what I do generally when I'm working directly on a piece of design or something that will most likely become a product. I have to produce 200 or 300 prints of something. It needs to stay on screen, you know.
Yeah.
So exposing images onto the screen, you know, it is more of an investment, really, I suppose. You have to spend the time and the energy and the money doing that. And then, you know, it involves going down to the print workshop and, you know, and having that facility here is fantastic. I mean, if I lived out in the middle of nowhere, I don't know how I would cope without an exposure. I would probably have to buy one, or travel in and out or whatever. But yes, that's the process. There's either drawing and then burning the image onto a screen, or just freely working with hand cut stencils or masks. Or
you must have a huge amount of screens then as well, do you, or do you use those from the studio?
No, I do. I have about 12 or 15 screens in varying sizes, and then of the mesh on the screen. So they're called silk screens for anyone that doesn't know about printmaking. They used to be silk, and then again the weave of the silk determined how much ink can come through. They're not silk anymore. They're polyester material, I think.
Yeah.
So, and then they have varying mesh widths, and so depending on the gauge of the mesh, the result, you know, is different. So something that you're going to print on paper, you do with a kind of a 90, 120 mesh screen, and for me, I'm printing on textile at the minute most often, and those screens, so I have a mixture of different screens, but those screens are generally around, you know, kind of 60. I have some that are 40 something, and you know. But then I have a whole load of tiny little screens this size that I take to the workshops that I teach, and people hand cut stencils and blow me away with what they've never done it before. You know, you show them the basics of how this works, and then they draw out this amazing picture, and they cut out with a scalpel that they've never used in their lives before their paper stencil and put it onto the screen, and they leave with, you know, something amazing. And I'm always there. It's taken me years to get to this point. You've just come in for the first time to workshop, you're able to do it. But yeah, so I've got loads of little screens. They're getting worn out. So I am going to need to reinvest, and you know.
And do you enjoy the teaching process then, Renee? Do you like that?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's really. I think that you know, I grew up in a place where I mean, I'm not saying that this is what workshops are for. They're not. Workshops are not just for kind of the democratization of art. You know, they're not. Anyone can attend workshops from. You know, even established artists attend workshops that other people are running. But from my point of view, you know, having had no exposure to creative processes and things like printmaking, I mean, the word printmaking, I never heard it until I was maybe 23, you know, 20, you know. So, you know, you just didn't know. I didn't know about these things. I didn't know a whole lot of the arts and the creative sector and stuff. So I think doing the workshops, I mean, people know a lot more about everything now than we did when we were, you know, when I was in my.
Thanks to Google.
I mean, the internet is amazing, but I think teaching workshops, you get so much back from people. And it reminds you of how much you know. If you're feeling a bit like, oh, I'm not good enough, or why would anyone want me to teach them anything? Sure, what I know
Mm.
Ask people who've never done the thing before, and you'll suddenly remember or realize, okay, I do know,
Mm.
like even how someone puts a screen on top of a piece of paper, there needs to be a little bit of a gap. It's little things like that and you have them all prepped and ready, and but they would never know. And you're just passing on the tiniest little bits of information that can help them go from not being able to do the thing to being able to do the thing. How can you enjoy that? I really enjoy passing on kind of information, and I'm very,
I love that.
Yeah, I do, especially with kids. But because kids are so funny, and and so straightforward, and they say the most inappropriate things, and they're so cunning, and they don't pull back with, no, I think yours is rubbish, or I quite like working with kids, but also with adults who are having a new experience. I really like working with people who are having some kind of an enlightenment. When you're there in the room and they've come to the class because they're having problems at work, or maybe a grief or something, and they've come just to change their focus, and and they get to learn a new skill, and and you're the person helping them learn that thing. It's really nice. It's really I really do enjoy it, and I really enjoy the fact that I'm not enjoying the fact, I should say, at the minute, that I can't do it, because it was my primary source of income.
Yeah, it's tricky for a lot of people. Yeah.
So from that point of view, from that, within that element of my work, so it's not that it's okay to be earning money from that as well, and artist or a maker, it makes up a huge bulk of where your annual income comes from. So it's a necessity as well as an enjoyable process.
I think multiple streams of income for artists is always a good thing, varying different ways to make money through your like make a living through what you're actually doing from many streams, I think, is really the key to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Rene, on that, would you have, so obviously you've come from very different backgrounds to the creative background, and from somebody who then went into creativity, would you have any advice to give to somebody who is looking for a bit of a change or wanting to do something different? What would you say would be the startings of somebody who wants to get into being more creative that may have never dabbled in anything like that?
I think anybody that's thinking about doing something can, if they want to get messy, get into, ink. Anything that involves ink is pretty messy. And if you'd rather get into music or, those kind of things, go to a recording studio, hire it for an hour, sing into a microphone, don't be afraid. I think the no rules thing, I'll come back to that. There are no rules. There's no rules about a recording studio. You don't have to be an established artist to go in and start singing into a microphone and have yourself recorded. You just pay for your time and then you go and do it. And the same with art and classes and courses. And, at the Belfast Print Workshop, we have courses that are open to everyone. Membership is open to everyone. Membership is open to people who have at least one, are competent in at least one technique within printmaking. Courses are open to anyone, whether they've or even used a pen and drawn a pen and ink drawing. It doesn't matter. Anyone can come to them. And I think most arts venues and studios offer that. So I think it's that there are no rules, and you can come and you can go and do these things and try classes, try courses, try renting a studio space. Just do it. And don't worry about it. And there's no wrong. You can't be wrong,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Rene? What's in the pipelines for you?
Well, I'm going to launch this kind of collection of work towards the end of this year. November now. We're now in October. And
still loads of time to do it. Yeah.
yeah, and then I mean, I know that this sounds weird, but redoing and relaunching, well, having a website for our landscape architecture firm, we've had a whole page for a long time, but we haven't actually ever had a website. How people think you have to have a website to be in business these days. You just have to be doing a good job, and other people will then know that you did a good job, and they'll come back and ask you to do some more stuff. However, back to the celebrating everything aspect, we've decided to get a website, and designing the website. I was going to work with another someone else who does web design. But actually, the templates and everything have moved on so much so that I'm able to do them. And I've done our other websites previously, my own Kiln and Loom and all those things. So I'm doing a website for Mullin, and I'm doing a website for Placed at the minute, and they are in themselves kind of.
That's full time already. Like that's already full time. Yeah.
It's engaging me from a design and creativity perspective, and I'm actually enjoying that process. And we're doing a brand mark for Mullin as well, and we're just working through that as well. And I actually really enjoy that aspect of things too. So many people see doing the website and logos and branding and all that kind of thing as a nightmare. I really enjoy that aspect of it too. So that's going to take me another 2 weeks, I think, to finish writing all the copy, and we're just waiting for photographs to come from a photographer that we've engaged to get those online and up and running. So then once the Placed site is finished, I've applied for funding from the Arts Council here in the north for a project that I want to work on in the early part of next year. But whether or not I get the funding will determine whether or not I can do it. It will mean me going into my studio and being in my studio, and also it will involve doing more of this kind of online stuff and talking to people and maybe delivering online classes. So I have really missed the teaching aspect of what I'm doing, and doing any of that, it's going to have to be possibly going to have to be online, unless we can relax the rules around or work out the space kind of how I'm teaching classes sometimes involves me having to go over physically and help the person pull the print. So how that can happen going forward, I don't know, but how we can do these things online and separate with social distancing and these things, that's what I'm trying to work through at the minute, so that I know what I can offer. But yeah, so that, and then working on collections. So I'm doing the one that I'm at the minute, and then next year I'll have another couple of things to do. The book that I did had 2 books following it planned and sketched out, and that was in 2013, and we're now in 2020, and I still haven't done those.
Wow, that's exciting though, that you can there's still 2 more there. To like, having your own book is significant, isn't it?
So I'm not going to make myself think that I'm going to do both of them, but I think I might try in 2021 and get one of them done.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing that. That would be.
Well, me too. Again, it will depend on if someone wants to, give me an advance and produce the book, because that's what happened the last time. It has to be the same thing this time. I couldn't do that myself. I would have to, it has to be commissioned. So I need to go back to my publisher or find a new publisher and see.
Well, we'll watch this space then, Renee. And I think you're right. I think for lots of creatives and artists within the industry, they're going to have to just be more creative about things going forward, like classes and all that kind of stuff. And I think we're just going to have to work around or see, as you said, like a lot of online things. And with that comes a lot of change and a lot of figuring new ways out of doing things as well. So, but I wish you all the best with it all, Renee, and I look forward to seeing how it all pans out and what next, and where you're designs with linen, where that takes you as well. Where can people find you then, Renee, if they're looking for you online?
Well, we launched in a few weeks' time.
Mhm.
We'll say November, just to be safe.
Yeah. Okay.
So placed at the minute, it's old and tired, but it's there, placed.ie.
Yeah.
But going forward, it will link you to all of the things that I'm doing.
Okay.
And yeah, so and then work will be available to buy on there as well.
Okay.
So yeah, place.ie is where I'm
Okay.
at. Yeah.
And then Instagram as well. People can find you at Rene
Mullin.
Is it? Yeah, Rene Mullin. There we
Yeah.
go. That's
Yeah.
it.
Me, yeah. So that Instagram, I was late to the game with the Instagram thing. I only started Instagram in 2015, I think, or and only because I had a shop at the time, and one of the girls that worked in the shop was like, "Why are we not on Instagram?"
Yeah.
On the Instagram, and then I started following loads of accounts on it that I love, just me personally, never mind the shop.
Yeah.
So then I had a placed Instagram a couple of years after that. I started a placed Instagram, and then I realized all the people I really like following are on the other one.
Yeah.
So I moved it all over to René Mullin. So the placed one doesn't work. There is nothing happening on it anymore. But what I was going to say about Instagram is there seems to be this kind of idea that if you have more followers than you follow, then that's the cool thing. I want to see new stuff every single time I switch the thing on, and I'm actively trying to find accounts to follow all the time, because the more you look at what other people are doing, the more excited you feel about what you can be doing yourself. So I love Instagram. I have no problem with Instagram. I'm a rubbish Instagram user. I don't do I don't stick to the kind of the stats rules that you post at this time and you tell them this.
No, me neither. Yeah. I'm the same. Like, I'm just like what you were saying about the no rules. I don't care about how many followers, how many people I follow or anything like that. I just think, I think you do it because you love it, or you do it because you want to see what other people are doing, or you want to showcase your own work. And I don't post at certain times. I post whenever. Sometimes I post loads. Sometimes I post nothing. I think, I think it's also changed quite a lot from what it was, maybe. And so,
and it'll
just use it in the way that you want.
Yeah, it'll continue to change and evolve, and we have to move with it.
Exactly.
I remember the first time someone posted a story thinking, what are stories? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I know.
Only doing stories nearly, anyway.
I know. And now I'm always doing stories. I think it's one of the best ways to communicate. If you don't want to be like, the wording I find difficult and stuff like that. So I find it easier just to communicate just through rambles and through day to day, really.
See where it takes us. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks a million for coming on, Renee, and it's been lovely to hear a bit about your process and stuff, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.